I read 8 books in the month of May, and here are my thoughts on them. Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today is July 1st and I want to do a quick monthly wrap up of all the books that I read in June. Some of the books that I read were arcs from NetGalley. The first book that I read is an arc from NetGalley. I actually listened to the audiobook version of it, and that was Writing Mr. Wrong. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I actually listened to it, the whole thing, in one sitting. I was really obsessed with it, and just throughout my entire workday I listened to the whole book. I ended up giving this 3.5 stars, I believe. Writing Mr. Wrong is a second chance romance where the main character, Gemma, is an author, and she recently wrote a novel where the male main character very much resembles her high school crush, who is now a famous hockey player. The fact that they knew each other in high school and that he is the inspiration for the male main character kind of gets exposed on national television, and they end up fake dating to promote book sales. That's kind of all I'll say about the description of this book. However, their relationship ended up being really cute. I really enjoyed Gemma as a character. I think that Mason was very annoying in the beginning. However, as the book went on, he definitely showed a lot of growth and turned into a really great male main character or love interest, and overall I just had a great time reading this book. It wasn't anything special, but I did enjoy it, and that's all I have to say about that. The next book I read was on my Kindle, and it was Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. I have never read a Renee Carlino book, and I also have never seen this book circulating until after I read it. I think it was very popular on BookTube a while ago. However, this was my first time hearing about it. I just happened to see it on Kindle Unlimited and gave it a try. I did talk about it a lot in one of my recent videos. Overall, I really loved this book. I only gave it 4 stars, but the more I think back on it, I think I might need to raise that rating because I actually just can't stop thinking about this book. This is also a second chance romance, kind of. It's a romance and then a second chance romance. I really loved the setting and the characters of this book so much. So it's set in New York City in, I think, the 90s or early 2000s, and it's 2 college students that are falling in love, and then something happens and they lose each other, and then they come back together, and they're both living in New York City. And I love the dual timeline. I really loved this book. I think I am going to raise it to 4.5 stars. It was such a beautiful story, and I really loved the female main character, Grace. She was just so adorable, and I felt so bad for her so many times throughout this book that it made me grow even more affection towards her because I just wanted to go in and give her a hug. I think the reason I didn't give it 5 stars was because I didn't love the ending. There was a specific part in the book towards the end where for multiple chapters I just didn't want to keep reading them be so dumb. Specifically, Grace and how she was handling the situation really bothered me. But also Matt, I think he could have definitely handled the ending situation a lot better, but the very end came together perfectly, and it was just such a beautiful story, and I'm so happy that I read it. This next book I read was a very highly anticipated book for me because in my last monthly wrap up, if you watched that, I did read Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood, and it was to prepare for Problematic Summer Romance that was coming out this month. And I think this book was a bit of a letdown. It was a bit of a disappointment. I loved Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood, and I really loved the character Rue. I think she just reminded me so much of myself, and this book, the best parts about it was Rue. Seeing Rue and Eli again, that was the best part about this book. This book is about a age gap romance between Maya and Hark. Maya is Eli's little sister, and Eli is the male main character from Not in Love. And in this book, it's following Maya and Hark through a dual timeline, kind of. The main timeline, they are at Eli and Rue's wedding in Italy. The setting of this book in Italy was so beautiful. It was so summery. I really loved reading this in the summer. It was definitely an atmospheric read for me. And I really did like Maya's character, but the whole age gap part of this book was done so terribly, in my opinion. I think that the way it was emphasized so much between both characters, the daddy jokes, it was just a little bit too much, and it took you out of the story and just made you contemplate if their relationship was normal. And they didn't even have that huge of an age gap. They were both adults. There was nothing weird about when she was a child and them showing interest in each other. Like, there was none of that. It was strictly adults that found interest in each other and started to fall in love. And it was mostly Hark, but the way that he had such a problem with it really just rubbed me the wrong way, and I found it really hard to connect with these characters and enjoy the book in the way that I was supposed to. But I did end up giving it 3 stars. It wasn't a bad book. It was just not done very well in terms of the age gap. I loved, however, seeing Rue, and I loved the side characters in this book. I loved the side characters in Not in Love, and seeing them in here and seeing them all interact in different ways was very fun, and that is why I gave it 3.5 stars. Sorry, I meant 3 stars. This next book I read was an ARC from NetGalley. I also listened to the audiobook of this book. I'm not going to spend too long talking about it because I don't want to be too mean, so I'm just going to get straight to the point and tell you that I did not enjoy this book, and that was Claire Casey's Had Enough by Liz Alderman. I just really did not have a good time listening to this. And I want to preface this and say that it may have just not been for me. I just might not be the correct audience for this book. This book is about Claire Casey, who is a mother to 3 children, and her husband kind of just leaves everything for her to handle. One night, he forgets to pick her up from the airport, and that's kind of the last straw for her. That's really where she just loses it and decides that she wants to separate from her husband. This entire book takes place over the course of one day, and it also has some flashback scenes. But for the most part, everything that happens in this book is supposed to happen within 24 hours, and it is just a lot of chaos. It's supposed to be what a mother would experience on a day like this, and honestly, I just found it to be super unrealistic, super chaotic. I found Claire to be annoying and just causing more and more problems for herself and her family. I really just didn't enjoy this book, and I don't want to spend too much time harping on it. I think it may be for some people. I think it comes out sometime this month, so if you are a mother who maybe would enjoy something like this, you might enjoy it. It just wasn't for me, and that's all I want to say about it. The next book I read I really enjoyed, and that was Legendborn by Tracy Dion. I've been seeing this everywhere for years, and I have never got into it, and I'm really happy that I did. I was just really craving a fantasy book, romantasy book, and I really do love YA romantasy books. I think that adult romantasy books are a little bit sometimes more focused on the romance than the fantasy, and I just really enjoyed this. This is about a 16-year-old girl whose mother dies, and she had a interesting relationship with her mother, and right before her mother died, her and her mother got into an argument that was never resolved. And then she goes to college early through a early acceptance program and sees a demon, and then ends up joining a secret society. Throughout this book, she deals with her grief. She deals with a new environment, with learning that magic exists. She finds out who she is. There's so much that goes into this book. I really couldn't even put it into words, but I really enjoyed it. I think that it was such an important book to be written, and I think Tracy Dion did a great job of expressing what needed to be expressed in this book. I just think it was a great book, and I'm really excited to get into the rest of this series. I am a little bit scared though, because I think it might rip my heart out, literally. And I ended up giving this book 4 stars because I didn't love the beginning. I think the beginning was a little bit much on the emphasis that she was Black and how much people pointed it out and called it out. I think it was obviously important to the storyline, but I think it was talked about too much without really expressing it. Like, I think there was a lot of times where I was being told what Bree thinks and feels rather than feeling what Bree feels because of a certain situation or interaction. But overall, I really did enjoy this book, and I think by the end of this book, none of that really mattered because it was so important to the storyline. The next 2 books I read were for a video reading challenge that will be coming out on my channel soon, so I'm not going to talk too much about them because you can watch that video if you want to see my full thoughts and opinions on these books. But the first one is Alice Feeney, His and Hers. This was the first time that I've read a thriller book. This follows 2 main characters who were married and have been divorced. They are experiencing a lot of grief and dealing with a lot of self-reflection. Then someone is murdered that they both knew pretty well, and this book follows both of them trying to basically figure out how this person was murdered and who murdered this person, but in very different ways. And overall, it was really good. It was really surprising, and it definitely kept my attention. I read this in like 24 hours, and I really enjoyed it. I gave this 4.5 stars. The next book that I read was Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. This was also the first mystery book that I have ever read, and I enjoyed this one, but not to the same level as the other one. I did not love the main character. Actually, I really didn't like her much at all, and I'm sorry. I know most people probably love her. She was very funny, but for me, she just crossed the line of what's acceptable too many times, and I don't think her culture alone can make up for that. I just really didn't enjoy her, but I did enjoy all of the other characters in this book, and I love the setting. I love the tea shop. I really enjoyed the found family aspect of this book. And I didn't mention that this is about a woman, Vera Wong, who stumbles into her tea shop one day and found a man dead in her tea shop, and she decides to take it upon herself to figure out who the murderer is. And I ended up giving this 3 stars. It was okay. It wasn't great. It wasn't my favorite. And a lot of times it just really made me mad. The last book I read in the month of June was also for the reading challenge video that's coming out soon on my channel. And that was I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I did not rate this book because it is a memoir, and that's just not fair to rate someone's lived experience. But I did enjoy this book. I mean, I enjoyed it the most you can. It was a pretty sad story, but it was definitely really interesting to read about her life from her perspective, when from my perspective of watching her on TV growing up, you know, on one of the most popular shows at the time, you would think that she kind of just had it all. Obviously, that's very simple-minded, but that's how you are when you're younger, at least I was. And overall, I did really enjoy learning about her life and what she went through and how her mom was. There was parts of this book where I felt like it was just getting very repetitive, and I know that's crazy to say considering that's her life story, but I was getting a little bit bored listening to the same problem over and over. But by the end of this book, I was kind of just bored. But in the beginning, it was very engaging and very interesting to hear her story. And I'm happy that I did read it. I have not read anybody else's memoir, and I don't think I'm going to be reading any more of those. I was trying to find a nonfiction book that I would enjoy, and I don't know if that was the right one for me. I think I want to look for more nonfiction that's not a personal story, but maybe just about something very niche and specific that I'm interested in. That will probably be the direction I go for my next nonfiction read. But that was my last book for the month of June, and I don't think I'll be reading any nonfiction books in the month of July. So let's talk about what books I will be reading in the month of July. I want to first start with my physical TBR. If you watched last month's wrap up, please don't judge me. I definitely have a lot of the same books on this month as I did last month, and I'm gonna try really, really hard to get to these this month because most of these have been on my TBR, on my physical TBR for quite some time, and it's definitely time that I read them. The first book that I want to get to is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I just see this everywhere and so many people love it, and I just definitely think it's time to read it, considering I've had it sitting on my physical TBR for many months now. The next book that I really want to get to is Love in Other Words. I wanted to get to this last month and I didn't get around to it, and I still really want to get to it. I think so many people love this book and there has to be a reason why, so I want to figure that out for myself. Another book on my physical TBR is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. I started reading this a few months ago and I kind of just soft DNF'd it. I don't know why. I think I just wasn't fully engaged in it. Maybe I was bored. I'm very much a mood reader, so sometimes it's really hard for me to not just move on to another book that's grabbing my attention or a different genre. And I think that's what happened with this book, but I do know that people love this book, so I definitely want to give it a fair shot and try to get to it when I'm more in the mood for it, and I'm hoping that'll be this month. This book I don't even really know anything about. I picked it as my book of the month pick last month, and I think I should give it a try because I don't want to just keep adding to my physical TBR, so I'm gonna try to get to What Kind of Paradise by Janelle Brown. I again, know really nothing about this book, but I do really enjoy the cover. I think it's a very beautiful book, and I hope that I get to that one. The last book on my physical TBR for July is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. I actually did start this book. I got it as my June Fairy Loot subscription. I am obsessed with it. It's so beautiful, and I have been wanting to read this. This has been on my TBR pretty much since it was announced. I am only about maybe 10% through this book, and I don't know how I feel about it yet. I'm a little bit confused and I'm a little bit bored, if I'm being honest, but I'm definitely going to keep going and see if it gets any better. It's not bad, actually. It just hasn't really got my attention. Like, I'm not really thinking about it. I'm not thinking, oh man, I wish I was reading right now. And that's kind of the feeling I like to feel when I'm reading a book. So I'll see how this goes. Right now, it's definitely not going the best, but I'm only 10% in. It definitely has time to get better. Through NetGalley, I was given a few books to review, and one of them I'm in the middle of. I am listening to the audiobook of Birth of a Dynasty by Chinaza Bado, and honestly, this book is going extremely well. I'm about 40% through, and I can already foresee it being maybe 4 or 5 stars. It is so entertaining. It's giving Game of Thrones in a lot of ways. There is just so much political intrigue. The characters, even though there's so many of them, they're making me really care about them a lot and care about what happens. As of right now, I think this might be a 4 or 5 star read for me, and I don't know when it comes out. It is actually coming out this month. The published date is July 29th, 2025. I'll definitely give you an update at the end of this month on my thoughts on it, but as of right now, I think you should probably read it if you enjoy political fantasy books. But yeah, this is definitely on my TBR, and it's actually gonna be done within the next few days. There's 2 more arcs that I want to get to this month, and one of them is Fallen City by Adrienne Young. I actually don't know much about this book. I think it's a fantasy book, and I don't know, I'm just gonna have to get to it because I have to review it, and it seems pretty good. The last arc that I have to get to this month is Cruel Summer, which I was given the audiobook arc of. I think this book might actually already be out. I think it came out on June 24th. I know nothing about this book, but I mean, Cruel Summer, and it's summertime, so it's probably going to be a fun summer read. And also, I just really love this cover. It's so pretty, it's so summery, and if I enjoy this book, I'm definitely 100% going to be getting the physical copy because I just really love this cover. It might be one of the best covers I've seen in a long time. I really do think that's a beautiful cover. And I hope that I enjoy that book because I do want to buy it. So that's all for my ARC TBR, but I do have a few more books on my radar. For some reason, I just really want to read a cowboy romance. I've never read a cowboy romance, but I think I want something like light and fun, and that tends to be romances, but I don't want anything super serious. So I think I'm gonna start with the Chestnut Spring series because that's on Kindle Unlimited. So I think I'll be starting with Flawless by Elsie Silver and hopefully get into the rest of the series since it's all on Kindle Unlimited. Yeah, I'm really excited to explore a new sub-genre of romance. And if you have any recommendations for a better cowboy romance series or book that I should get into, please let me know because I'm kind of open to anything. I'm just really excited to start my cowboy romance journey. That's my full TBR and all of my July reads. If you've read any of these books, what were your thoughts on them? And are any of the books that are on my TBR on your TBR? Let me know down below. I had a pretty good reading month and I hope that this month is going to be even better with this TBR. I think it definitely has the potential to be amazing. So we'll see how it goes, and I'll be back next month with another monthly wrap up. Thanks for watching.